especially for those who have are kind of doing their own lay work and you haven't had official training. This is one of the best, most important things that my very first IFS coach slash therapist shared with me on our second session, almost in passing, but it changed everything. So many of you are familiar with parts work, maybe even inner parenting work. And in IFS, there is a distinction between caretaking parts and self energy, capital SELF. And so, one of the first things, my very first exposure to IFS was with leadership coach Rebecca Ching. She's a level 3 IFS practitioner therapist. And on one of our second call, she was like, "Oh, by the way, don't coach your parts." And I can now translate that to don't teach your parts, don't parent your parts, and don't coach your parts. These are called caretaking parts. And here's why it's such a valuable distinction. I didn't know, and Rebecca didn't tell me. I've uncovered it over the last couple years of working. Being a coach and being in personal development, I'm prone to be a fixer. I'm prone to be a let's solve the problem and get it all better right now person, and maybe you are too. So the other thing is I have a history I have a certification in some parts work that involves parenting inner child. There is a presence and acclamation with self energy that is so powerful for all these parts. For managing parts that try to control and fix everything. And many caretaking parts are trying to manage and control so that you won't feel pain. Their primary benevolent goal is so that you never hurt again, so that you never feel again. And they are very skilled. So let's remember a couple of fundamentals of doing internal family systems, internal parts work with self energy is that all parts are benevolent, all parts are welcome. And so none of these parts are getting fired. We just want to update them. And those of us, so particularly in the coaching realms, because I work as a coach, not a therapist, particularly in the coaching realms, I am working with a lot of managers in the internal system. So there are managers and firefighters. I'll share an image I recently drew on the show notes. There are managers and firefighters. There's the core self, and then there are exiles, which are deepest inner wounded parts. And managers and firefighters are the protective parts of us that are keeping us from tapping into the pain of exiles. And there is a full cohort of caretaking parts. So inner parenting parts, inner coachy parts. I call my coachy parts, my coachy parts, my fixie parts. This is how I label my system and I label it. And this distinction, and I notice when I'm doing work with my clients, especially in the coaching realm, because a lot of my clients are paid to solve problems. They're very good at solving problems. And what I have noticed most profoundly with myself and my clients is that both the manager parts, all protective parts, and especially the tender exile parts, these parts don't want to be fixed. And trying to fix or coach them just pushes them into protective mode even further. And what I find is truly helpful, and I have a handful of really significant personal events that eventually I'll share with you. Right now, I won't, but things that in the past I was not, even as an adult, emotionally able to handle, whether it's conflict resolution or some family drama. Um, there are some ways that I've changed relating with my husband that have softened and don't get me anymore. Like, oh, that didn't get me. And it's always gotten me. And the reason is these parts need presence, which is one of the qualities of self. They need witness and they need curiosity instead of caretaking. Even the caretaking parts, so the inner parenting parts, the inner caretaking parts, the inner coaching parts need calm presence and an attunement to self, but they don't know how to say that, right? And so when you're doing this work and can tap into self energy, that calm, clear, connected, compassionate energy, and you begin to find and feel your parts. Another piece of effective IFS inner work, and whether you're working with somebody, a coach like me, or with a therapist, or with another kind of practitioner, or doing your own self IFS work, those caretaking parts will jump in quickly, especially if you are already a caretaker in life. And to slow the process down and to allow yourself and your parts to attune energetically, physically, without words for a moment, just to be in the presence. And so I remember my first year in IFS, the word that, like, I lead there are 8 C's. I'll share my little picture. Again, it's all over the place. There are 8 C's of self and 5 P's. So the 8 C's are calm, connected, compassionate, curious, confident, creative, clear, and courageous. And there is no specific order. I have an episode about my business plan, and this is my business plan. I'm not sure what number it is. But for me, this is my system. When I say my system, myself and all my parts and the way that I think and be in the world, they tended to always write them in this order. And I noticed that my particular system needed calm and connection before it could get to anything else, right? I can intellectually jump to confidence, but if it is not fully embodied through calm, connected presence, I don't know if I have my 5 P's around. Surely I do. They're in a pile here somewhere. You audio listeners, thank you for enduring. I don't know where my 5 P's are. They're around here somewhere, but I didn't take the time to find them for you all. The 1 P. So when I am accessing parts of myself and when I am doing my work, I come with calm presence. That is, for me, I have found that most helpful. And I found my clients, it's most helpful for my clients when I really slow them down and help them find presence. Because otherwise, what happens is as you begin to find these parts, or they come up and want your attention, and all the managers come in. And can you imagine being at I don't know, since I'm a business coach or a life coach for business owners, imagine being at a corporate table. Too many managers in the room, right? We all know that saying. And so I just wanted to pop on and give this little tip and this little distinction to remind you and to thank Rebecca Ching for sharing this with me. It wasn't even like it was a, oh, by the way. And so I'm passing on that, oh, by the way, to you. Don't coach your parts. You don't need to parent your parts. You don't need to caretake your parts. In fact, your parenting, coaching, and caretaking parts probably also need a little bit of your compassionate, calm presence and then curiosity. And so the final distinction is, instead of you telling your parts how things are going to be. Simply begin asking and witnessing. Tell me more. What is it you'd like me to know? I always say, and I'll repeat this on so many episodes. So, for example, let's say, there, coachy part. I see you wanting to fix things quickly. I'm here for you. I won't leave you. I see you. I'm listening. And last week I had some things come up, and it was really one of the things I do. I practice this pretty well in my own internal, like just as a way of being out in the world, right? Like I think in parts language now and I think in self language and it's just the way I work. But every once in a while, I absolutely have to sit down and put my hand to paper. And one of the things I share with people who are new to IFS and who are having trouble distinguishing between the different parts and different voices in your head is to sit down with a piece of paper and to begin to just listen for parts and write down what they say. Right? Let them talk. And so often we have been taught to like shut up our inner critic. This is a big one. I hear this all the time. Like, kick your inner critic's ass. And what if you were like, oh, hello, inner critic. I see you. I'm here for you. I'm listening. And with your breath and your intention and all of your somatic awareness, you just begin to drop in and create presence and compassion with this part. And then what you'll find after presence and compassion is curiosity. I see you're here now. How come you showed up right now? What would you like to share with me? How may I build trust with you? What are you afraid of? How are you protecting me? And just listen. And so often, I know I do this as a human being, right? Like somebody is talking to us, and you can equate this to like, gosh, if you've ever lost somebody and people start giving you fucking advice, you do not need to hear crappy things like, oh, it was God's will, or, we don't need to hear those things. We don't need to hear people's solutions when we're in pain. And a lot of these parts are, as it is called in IFS, burdened. They don't need you to fix or even heal their burdens. They need you to be able to tap into just a modicum of self energy and acclimate and attune and share space. And when they feel safe and when they feel trusting, they will begin to share their stories or their concerns with you. And very often, especially in the coaching realms, very often, just the powerful witness and listening will soften the tension in these parts, and they will relax and let self lead. So, the best thing my IFS coach and trainers have ever said to me is don't coach your parts, don't parrot your parts, don't teach your parts. I wanted to share that with you today. That's the end. It's a short episode. My name is Allison Crow. I work with life. I do life coaching through IFS with business owners. Occasionally, like let's say we got 10% business savvy, because I'm never going to walk away from the business savvy. But what I really do is I help business owners with emotional management, self-leadership, and their inner worlds of being a leader, and to make a distinction of what self-leadership is, instead of being led by all these protective parts, we actually not conjure, but we tap into and let self lead these parts, right? And it's a beautiful practice for life, for work, for school, for kids. Watching parents begin to speak with their kids in parts language has been really fascinating and healing. I'm excited to begin my official IFS Level 1 training this fall. I've been doing 2 years of work and waiting to get into this. If you would like to spend time in a community that is IFS based, that acknowledges and welcomes all parts. I do have a coaching membership. My clients are all some kind of small business owner or leaving corporate world to create their own small business. Um, and they generally know the how to. Sometimes parts make them think that they don't know the how to, but they generally are growth and achievement level business owners. And we have a coaching community with 2 calls a week. You don't have to come to 2 calls a week. It's like a gym membership. You go to the classes or the calls that help. And pretty soon this summer, I'm going to be doing a series of classes. I'm going to do some refreshers on the fundamentals of internal family systems. I'm going to do some refreshers on the internal family systems for business owners, as in how to lead your internal managers, which are like procrastination, fear of visibility, perfectionism, all these parts of us that can get in the way of joyfully being in our life and business. So I'm going to be doing some classes. If you'd like to join, you can find more about that program at coachwithallison.com, or there is a link on the what's that word called? There is a link on the show notes. That's it. So thank you so much. This has been episode number 174. Y'all have a great day. And if this podcast was helpful at all to you, either send me a note and let me know, or share it with a friend, or tag me on social media. Let's get the word out about better life, better work, and soulful living. Being a gardener, not a machine, how better is better. That we can be transparent leaders, that we can breathe, that we can enjoy amazing success without sacrificing our souls.